Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. Additionally, you can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And don't forget, we are wherever you listen to podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google, iHeart, etc. The Full Court Press is there. Simply take advice to play the Full Court Press by Drew Duncan. The NFL is in full swing. Already we've discussed the Dallas Cowboys' victory over the New York Giants. I thought the Dallas Cowboys were very unselfish and played as a unit, even though Dak Prescott, obviously MVP of that football game, played very well as a unit. And basically, I would say I saw some of the same things from the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And by the way, really quick, for the Chiefs and Jags, I'm not going to get into the fight. I think that we all saw the footage 100 times over. Clearly, he was taken down exceptionally hard by, what was it, Sammy Watkins, right, Miles Jack. And Miles Jack took exception to it, threw a punch. It was a little scrimmage, and that was the end of it. Do I think it was an ejectable offense? Probably. Sometimes attitudes and egos, things happen when you're in the field of battle. It all kind of is what it is. Miles Jack, I don't think could have been more disappointed than anybody else was. If you saw the way he was towards the end of that, the disappointment that he had, I thought was very real. I think he's remorseful, and I'm not going to get into it. It's probably been talked about ad nauseum by 101 other journalists, and there's no reason to really discuss it. That's how we're going to go in with that. The game itself. First half basically was simply this, right? KC loses Tyreek Hill with a shoulder injury. The Jaguars lose Nick Foles with a shoulder injury. They lose Miles Jack because of the ejection. Mahomes throws for 318 yards in the first half, and they scored on every single possession in the first half of that football game. Now, here was the crucial part about the whole thing that happened with Miles Jack and all that stuff in the end zone with KC and Jacksonville. Patrick Mahomes' ankle, his left ankle, which he very visibly was wincing and favoring for the rest of that football game. The offense completely changed. Their dynamic completely changed. They slowed down a hell of a lot. They weren't taking as many deep throw passes. And when they tried to go to the left, it simply was not there passing the football for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. This could prove to be something going forward. And I'm not taking anything away from Mahomes, but if you look at the numbers in the first half and in the second half, we're talking about two different styles of football. We're talking about two completely halves of football. And really what the Chiefs survived on in the second half was good enough defense. Because remember, Jacksonville was driving to start that third quarter, had the football for around 5 minutes before Leonard Fournette fumbled. And that was kind of the beginning of the end. And Kansas City's defense, a lot of people are saying they picked up where they left off offensively, and they're still this powerhouse, and I'm not going to deny that. But defensively, they still look the same, if you ask me. And I think if Nick Foles wasn't injured, we're talking about a completely different football game. We really are. I don't know that Kansas City would have lost, but I know it would have been a hell of a lot closer. I'll tell you that right now. We would have been talking about a way different football game. Jacksonville, with their backup Minshew, he actually looked pretty decent. I mean, given the situation, first game of the year, not a lot of playing time, obviously, except for preseason. And Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP quarterback that you were willing to almost break the bank over to get, right? And you're coming in behind that guy, and you're coming up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who just finished 15-1 a season ago. Many believe that there were plays that they got screwed out of in that AFC Championship game, which I don't think that's the case. But regardless, you're coming into a hostile situation. The only advantage you have is that you're at home. That's about it. That's really about it. And overall, I thought he played as good as he could. Look, going forward, this injury is going to be huge for Kansas City. Not just Tyreek Hill, but obviously Patrick Mahomes. That is a big deal. And you hate to see it happen because I don't think there's any of us that don't like Patrick Mahomes, right? Pretty cool guy, does nice interviews, seems kind of low-key, real mellow, kind of comedic, doesn't really take anything too seriously. Doesn't seem like he's got like a huge ego, just kind of mellow, man. And then he gets on the football field and he just plays loose. He has a lot of fun, and he's an absolute warrior. And he showed that warrior mentality and that toughness by playing through that ankle the way that he did against Jacksonville. It just adds another element to Patrick Mahomes, right? This is why the team is behind him. This is why you hear Kelsey and all these guys say the types of things about Patrick Mahomes that they do. Because he's tough. And then it gets proven that he's tough. I mean, how many times do we go, oh, man, Jay Cutler doesn't want to play through anything. This guy's soft and he gets hurt all the time and he's probably faking an injury, et cetera, et cetera. The key part about that whole scrum outside of Mahomes getting hurt was what Dan Fouts said during the course of that scrum, and that is, while they're trying to sort all this out, they've had time to look at Mahomes and tape his ankle and say whether or not he's good to go. I mean, they were able to figure things out on the spot because of all the time they had while the officials were trying to finish or figure out who the hell was going to get flagged for what and who was doing this and who was getting ejected and, taking a good 10, 12 minutes to do all that. Kansas City had time to prepare themselves for what was going on with Mahomes and how to begin to manage the rest of the offense, especially since it happened so close to the end of the first half. I mean, that was a big deal. And then they tried to test it a little bit in the second half, and obviously they weren't able to. Regardless, Kansas City comes up with a victory. I still think it's a solid one, even without Nick Foles. I think it's a good victory. But I think with Nick Foles in there, Kansas City wins that football game, and it's an even better victory. Obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on Patrick Mahomes as this continues to go forward. But Kansas City getting the job done. Guys, I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. Additionally, you can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.